Well, now, guess what? Let's go ahead on this board and solve the menace. Why does your salary never meet the other? What does it mean? Why is your salary? Let's say, for example, if you get paid today. By the time now you get paid the next time, that money that you're gonna be paid does not meet the money that you had been paid previously. Have you ever been in that situation whereby you find your salary never meets? And you wonder, what exactly is going on? Why is my salary never met? I strain a lot to wait the next salary. I strain a lot to wait the next salary. And how exactly do you solve that menace? And how do you live in a life whereby you get paid today, you pay all your bills, you invest, you save, you do whatever you do, and then you're left with something. By the time the next salary is showing up, at least you have something. It's like, look at this. Let's say you're just a farmer. What I mean by a farmer is, let's say assume you live in an up country, because personally I was actually born in an up country, and I remember this. We could do our planting. Once we do our planting, obviously in Kenya maize is quite of a big thing. That's the corn. And then you realize that by the time now you plant and harvest, of course, you keep that in whatever the place we used to keep, and then we plant again the next year. By the time this one is ready, meets the other one in where we have actually saved our things. Okay, now that kind of a thing that I'm talking about, I bet I've used the correct way to explain my point. But anyway, if you didn't get anything on that, let's actually use this board to explain something, one or two. Anyway, if you're watching me for the first time, this is Good Joseph. Go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe, turn that notification bell. Why? Because I upload a video each and every day, and I don't want you to miss any. And by the way, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Let's go on. Okay. Now, here we are. See, I'm going to use a very simple steps here to explain to you why your salary never meets the other. And I'm going to give you what we call the roller coaster of payment, the roller coaster of salary, the roller coaster of emotions. Have you ever asked yourself, somebody tells you I've been working for the last 30 years, I haven't achieved anything. I'm going to explain to you exactly what goes on. Okay. Here you are at the date 1st to date 7. This is the most loved part of the month. The most loved, most loved part of the month. Part of the what? This is the most loved part of the month. Why? Most of the people get paid with this particular time, date 1 to date 7. Probably your salary has not come in first, either date 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. At this particular point, everybody appreciates their job, not because that they really love it, because hey, you know what? The pockets are full. We've already been paid. And guess what happens once we get paid? Obviously, you can tell. If you have a consumer mindset, you show up to a place, you buy whatever the thing. And by the way, I don't know whether you know this. Most people, when they have the money, they don't have the tendency of engaging the logical part of their lives. Let me just say it in a simple way. See, the moment people get, most of the people, when they get paid, they don't have the tendency of engaging the logics part of themselves. The emotions are very highly elevated. This is where you consume. This is where you make decisions based on how you feel. That month was very tough. I need to go to the coast and enjoy myself. I need to do this. I need to buy myself. Guess what? Wow, it's a long time since I grabbed that Americano, that cappuccino, that mojito, that whatever the thing it is, hanging around with your friends. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, that shoe is so nice and good. That hairstyle is amazing. I need to grab it. At that particular point, you operate on emotions. You operate on how you feel more than how you think. And that's why you tend to love the job. And guess what happens now? From date 1, assuming you got your salary the date 1, from date 1 to date 10, it's about shopping, enjoying yourself, living the best, and actually enjoying to your fullest. Guess what happens now? The moment you clock the 10th to 15th, this is another window we call the window of advance. This particular stage we call the window of advance. This is when now you think about, guess what? I think I need to go ahead. Okay, fine. It depends on what level of employment are you. You can actually go and ask your bank to give your salary advance. There are banks that give you that. Sometimes even if you don't ask them, they actually approach you because you do not have the money, and you simply remember, the kind of parties and what have you. Even your clothes are smelling that place where you are hanging around and what have you, because now you do not have the money. You don't have nothing, and if you do, it's that small that cannot even reach you to that particular point. We call the window of what? The window advance. You're thinking on, hey, I can go get my boss and ask them to give me a salary advance and what have you. Okay, let's say you don't get the salary advance, but those are actually kicking in. Then we go to the 15th to 16. This is that window we call, this is the part that most people hate their jobs. They hate their jobs, okay? They hate it. Why? And this is where people will say they are more logic than they are emotional. Why? This is the people where the brains operate fully. This is when you think of calling good Joseph and ask them, what is a money market fund? How can I invest? Joseph, I've ever been employed for 13 years. I've never done anything. Hey, you know what, Joseph? For the last 20 years, I've been employed. For the last 6 years, I've been employed. I don't know what exactly is going on with my life. I have a lot of debt, la 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 la, and all those kind of things. At this particular point, I hate my job. I want to start my own business. No, 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 no. It's the most hated part of the month. It's the 15th to 25, 21, because at this particular point, you don't have the money. You squandered everything. Okay? Now, this are the reasons why you find that your salary is not there, because of the emotional roller coaster, how you believe, how you behave, and how you approach these kind of things. Okay, this is the most hated part. Okay, now when we clock the 21st all the way to 31st, at this particular point we can say it's a kind of 8 to 10 days, depends on when you get paid, whether it's on date first, whether it's on 30th, on what have you. We call it the window of hope. This is the window of hope. Why is it a window of hope? You're like, okay, I may hate this job, but anyway, just 5 days or 6 days for us to get paid again. Guess what happens now? You love the job, there is the window of advance, you hate the job, another window of hope opens in, you forget that you are actually logical, you forget that you're actually struggling, and now you start to remember, hey, guess what? Once I get the payment, then I can be able to switch back to how I was back at the date 1st to date 7 when I was enjoying myself and all those kind of things. And guess what happens now? Boom, another window now opens up, which is the previous one. Again, this is when again you love your job. And by the way, this is just simply in a period of 30 days. You hate your job, you love it, you hate it, you love it, you hate it, you get the money. Instead of you getting the money at this particular point, guess what? When you get paid, this is what we say: 7 days after getting payment, that's when you make or break your month. I repeat, this is what I used to do. There was a time back then when I was in campus, I used to do what we call attach. Okay, when I go to long holiday, I used to go to a place and I used to teach, and not really teach per se, let me just call it tutoring. You know, in Kenya, I don't know whether you guys, you have it in your system, in your place. Maybe when you graduate from your high school and you had passed very well, you can always be invited by your former high school to actually sort of mentor the those guys whom you left there and what have you. You're not really a teacher per se, you're not certified, but at least you can, students might feel free to come and approach you and ask you questions and what have you. So that kind of a thing that I was experienced, because anyway, I did pass my high school, So what happens is that at that particular point, you realize this is exactly what people do. And let me tell you one thing. Within the 1st to 7th day after getting payment, that's what makes or breaks your bank. If you get it wrong there, forget about it. That month is gone. That month is actually gone. You cannot be able to recover it. So what happens, you're supposed to understand yourself. Hey, when I get paid in this particular phase, when I'm actually loving my money, when I'm actually getting my money. So you should ask yourself, what exactly, always refer back to the phase of 15th to 21st, when you hate your job, what you are thinking about. You dedicate about investments. And I always tell people, the moment you get paid on this particular point, avoid the people whom you hang around with, people who talk about spending your money, people who talk about enjoying lives. And I'm not saying there is nothing wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to enjoy your life. What I simply mean is that, yes, enjoy your life in an organized way. Don't just do anything because everyone is doing it and you believe that is what you need. At that particular point, you're supposed to make decisive decisions. Why? Because, for example, I always tell people, and I'm going to ask you this question, okay? Let's say from date 1, let's say, just ignore whatever I've written down here, date 1 all the way to date 30. This is a whole month of you. It is unfair to take a whole of 30 days to earn 30,000, okay? Or whatever the amount of money that you earn, okay? For example, if you earn 30,000, simply means that you earn 1,000 shilling per day. It is indiscipline. I mean, it's unfair. You take a whole 30 days to earn 30,000, and then you consume this money in 3 days. The rate of consumption is higher than the rate of making. There's something wrong. There is that imbalance. When you have that imbalance, you see, that job that you do, they pay you 30,000 because you're worth to be paid 30,000. And they know 30,000 should actually meet the next salary. Have you ever met these guys whom we say they have a lot of months at the end of the salary instead of having a lot of salary at the end of the month? So is you having what we call elevated consumer mentality compared to that what you're making. And when you have that in balance, especially that is tilting towards the consumption, then rest assured you're gonna get yourself a rough time, and your salary will never meet the next one. And when your salary will never meet the next one, then you're gonna get yourself into lots of problems. Why? Because, well, number one, you'll never plan yourself. Number two, you'll always be contemplating about borrowing so that the next salary that is coming can actually meet you having your sustenance. Please, and again, do not get yourself into a lifestyle that you're barely servicing. Let me just say this in slowly. Do not get yourself into a lifestyle that you're barely struggling to service. Just get the lifestyle. If your lifestyle is telling you the maximum amount of money you can pay for your rent is 7,000, you may love the 10,000 house, you may love the 20,000 house, but for God's sake, and you may love it and probably you may have the ability to pay it, but have you qualified? For how long can you sustain that? You know, sometimes it's good to look for your systems and ask yourself, the people whom I hang around with, they earn similar amount of money. And if I go for my 20,000 house rent, and maybe there is a delay of payment, I cannot borrow these friends of mine 20,000. Why? They cannot afford it. But if I go to that 7,000 one, I can borrow friend A and B, and I've actually cleared my debt. And by the way, by virtue of me borrowing from friend A and B, when I get my salary and pay them, I'll still be able to sustain myself. You know, there is that amount of money that your friend can borrow you, and it's shocking. Like, hey, let's say your salary is ranges 20,000 to 30,000. And then the guy tells you, I live in a 20,000 house rent. And then they ask you, hey, would you mind if you can lend me like even 15,000 or 20? That's like your salary. You're like, oh my goodness, even if I love you, I cannot be able to sustain you. You're too expensive. That is a lot of money. But they tell you, hey, would you mind if I can borrow you 2,000? It's a language that you can speak. You get what I'm saying? So do not get yourself a lifestyle that is actually digging deep into your pocket, that you cannot even be able to plan yourself. You know, the beauty thing about life, the beauty thing about money, by the way, it is not necessarily when you're consuming it. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with you consuming or spending your money. It is so sweet. Doing the shopping and having all those, it is so good and nice and amazing. But I'm telling you, there is more beauty you having that money. You can use it if you want. There is no limitation that has been there, but you just know you don't have to do anything to prove anything to anybody. And by the way, I bet people usually develop the depression and the stresses simply because when you're in a situation whereby you know you cannot assure that tomorrow you will eat, you are not even sure that tomorrow or the next month you'll be able to pay your rent. So the moment you live in uncertainty, you tend to develop that anxiety and the depression. But you know your life is secure. You have like a emergency fund that can cater for an entire stretch of the year. You tend to develop that comfortability, and not really comfortability per se, but you tend to have that what you call the confidence, and you can even approach life with an outright mind and that kind of a thing. Okay, so I'm not saying that spending your money is bad. No, it is amazing. I love it. It is great. Shopping, buying things and what have you, it is so good. And there is actually that dopamine that's actually, you know, exudes out of yourself. But it's far much better that if you can actually achieve what you call the financial freedom. Financial freedom is not necessarily when you are using your money, but it's primarily when you actually be able to afford anything that you want, but as of now you're not even buying it because it is not even a bother and such kind of a things. And I'm gonna leave you with this simple example. Back then when I was in high school, I used to talk much about the beards. You know, I used to love beards and whatever. Obviously, guys, as you can see, I'm not really that beard guy, you know. I used to love beards, and I could talk about beards like all the time because it's a thing that I wanted to have, and I didn't have it. So what you don't have, you tend to talk much about it. When I got the beards, I never even talk about it. I don't even remember I have the beard. So that's the same case what happens to money. You tend to talk much about it, but when you get it, just you don't forget you don't have, but you just like relaxed and those kind of things. That is exactly what happens. Anyway, that's good, Joseph, for you. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscription button. Leave me a comment on the comment section. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next time.